Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. So welcome back to our next subtopic. So we'll still be on topic 23, which is plant evolution and diversity, but today we will be covering two subtopics, okay, from this plant evolution. Okay, so the first subtopic will be 23.2, which is the evolution of bryophytes, the colonization of land. So if we see here, we will be covering bryophyte, which is a non-vascular plant. Okay, and bryophyte consists of mosses, hornworts, and also liverworts. So they have embryo protection, but they don't have the vascular tissues or vascular system. So for bryophytes, they are non-vascular plants. They are low-lying because they are non-vascular, so they don't have a true stem. Okay, so they need the support. They don't have the support from the xylem and the phloem and also the tracheids element. So they are the low-lying plants. So they are the first plants to colonize land, but they lack specialized means of transporting water and organic nutrients. They do not have true roots, stems, and leaf. Okay, so gametophyte their dominant generation are the gametophyte. So they produce eggs in the archegonia, and they produces flagellated sperm in the antheridia, and the sperm then swims to the egg in the water. So they need the help of water or a moist environment to complete their life cycle. So these are some examples of the bryophytes. So we have the hornworts, we have the liverworts, and we have the mosses. So in Malay, we usually call the bryophytes as lumut. Okay, so the first one we have is the liverworts. Okay, so liverworts, there are two types. We have the thallus liverworts, which are flattened thallus type, or it can be a leafy appearance called the leafy liverworts. Okay, some of them contains rhizoids, okay, because they don't have a true roots, but they have rhizoids. Okay, so it's a hairy extension that anchor the plant in soil and aid in the nutrient absorption. So an example that is famous for liverworts, and also the one that we will be studying in the lab, is Marchantia. Okay, so Marchantia, they reproduce either sexually or asexually, and they have gamma cups. Okay, they have this one in the thallus liverwort. They have gemma cup. Or actually in some of the leafy liverwort also they have gemma cup. So gemma cups are a group of cells that detach from the thallus and start a new plant. So this is the asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, they depends on either the antheridia, which is the male gametophyte, okay, antheridia here, spot, or the archegonia. Archegonia is like this. This is the female gametophyte. So in your lab, I think you would have to draw these two example of the antheridia and also the archegonia. So that will be in your lab 7 part 2. Okay, next we go on into hornworts, or another name for it are the coontails. Okay, so they are fast growing aquatic plants. They are usually found in the moist and well shaded areas such as streams, lakes, rivers. They can either be submerged or they can either be free floating. Okay, so don't be surprised, but if you're an fish lover, if you enter the aquarium shop or any store that sells fish, so you will find a lot of these hornworts, okay, available at the aquarium shop. Okay, so these hornworts have small sporophyte. Okay, they resemble tiny green broom handles rising from the gametophyte. So this gametophyte at the bottom is only around 2 centimeter in diameter. Okay, so see, they have small sporophytes rising out of thin gametophytes that carry on photosynthesis. Okay, So like the gametophyte, a sporophyte can photosynthesize, although it has only one chloroplast per cell. So these hornworts have a symbiotic relationship with the cyanobacteria that can fix nitrogen from the air, and they can also bypass alternation of generations by reproducing asexually through fragmentation. So the last group under this division would be the mosses. So mosses are the largest group of non-vascular plants with over 50,000 species. Okay, so these mosses are phylum of non-vascular plants. They produce spores for reproduction instead of seeds, and they don't grow flowers, and they don't have wood, or they don't have the true roots. Okay, so instead of roots, they have the rhizoids. Okay, so so they prefer damp shaded locations in the temperate zone, and some survive in the deserts. Okay, so in the forest, if you see here in the photos, they frequently form a mat that covers the ground and the rotting logs. Okay, however, in dry environment, they may become shriveled and turn brown and looks completely dead. Okay, but when they are in a moist environment, they resume metabolic activity and turn green. So there are three distinct groups of mosses, which are the peat mosses, granite mosses, and the true mosses. So these mosses usually have a leafy shoot, although some are secondarily flattened. They are flattened as they are low-lying because they are non-vascular plants. So the sporophyte is always attached to the gametophyte. So this is the moss life cycle. So example here is the Polytrichum species. So the majority of a moss life cycle is spent in the haploid state. So this brown area is the haploid state, and this blue area is the diploid state. So the sporophyte, which is diploid, this is sporophyte. Okay, all this. Okay, this is sporophyte. The sporophyte is diploid. Okay, it is non-photosynthetic at maturity and produces spores. So the one down here, we have the gametophyte, which is the leaf-like gametophyte, which is haploid, is photosynthetic and produces the sperm and egg. Okay, produces the antheridia and the archegonia. So the sperm requires water to swim to the egg. Okay, so let's go through this cycle. So the mature gametophytes, in mosses, the leafy gametophyte shoot bears the antheridia, which is the male gametophyte, or archegonia, which is the female gametophyte, where the gametes are produced by mitosis. And then these two will fuse, or another word for it is fertilize. Okay, so the flagellated sperm produced in the antheridia swim in the external water to the archegonia, each bearing a single egg. So this requires a moist environment or the water, okay, to complete their life cycle or the fertilization. Okay, so they need water because they have flagellated sperm, which is produced in the antheridia, which is expelled out into the external water to fuse with the archegonia bearing the single egg. Okay, next is the zygote. So comes after fertilization, it will become a zygote. So the zygote and developing sporophyte are retained within the archegonium. Okay, so after that, this is the developing sporophyte, and then we have the sporophyte stage, which is a diploid. So the mature sporophyte has the food buried in the female gametophyte tissue, a stalk, and an upper capsule, which is called the sporangium, this one here, where meiosis occurs and spores are produced. So if we go through meiosis and spores are produced. Okay, so the spores, when the lid, which is the operculum of the capsule, falls off, the spores are matured. So one or two rings of teeth project inwards from the margin of the capsule. Then the teeth close the opening except when the weather is dry. So there is the spore dispersal next, which is the spores are released when they are most likely to be dispersed by air. Okay. So, and then there comes the immature gametophyte. So, a spore germinates into a male or the female protonema. So, the first stage of the, which is the first stage of the male and the female gametophyte. Then, they will carry on the reproduction by budding. Carry on the growth by budding, and it will become either a male or a female. Okay, so then the life cycle continues again. Okay, so that is the end of the bryophyte life cycle. So an example we have here is the Polytrichum, which is the mosses. Okay, so next we will go on into lycophytes. Okay, so lycophytes is the next subtopic, which is 23.3 from your meta textbooks. We go on into the evolution of lycophytes, which have the vascular system or the vascular tissue. So if you see from this evolutionary history of plants, so we are done with the bryophyte, okay, which are non-vascular. So next, we will go on into the lycophytes, which have the vascular tissue, but they don't have the megaphylls, they have the microphylls. So we are going to discuss more on the lycophyte. They are seedless plant. So okay, lycophytes are vascular plant. They dominate the natural landscape and they can achieve great heights because of the root, because they have true roots and they have the vascular tissue and nutrient conducting tissue. So they have the support, right? So when they have the support, they can grow at a greater height compared to the bryophyte. So they have xylem, which conducts the water and dissolved minerals out from roots, and they also have the phloem, which conducts the sucrose and other organic compounds throughout the plant. They also have lignin, which strengthen the cell walls of conducting cells in the xylem. So most of the seedless vascular plants, lycophytes, are homosporous. They are windblown spores. The windblown spores are the dispersal agent. So one example we have here are the Cooksonia, which is this plant here. This plant here is one of the early vascular plant. So we go on a little bit more detail on the lycophyte. Okay, so the roots come off a branching underground rhizome, which is evolved as the lower extension from the stem. So this is the rhizome. This part, all these are rhizome. The rhizome consists of roots. Okay, so the leaves are microphyll. Okay, this is what I meant when they are not megaphyll. They are microphyll. All lycophytes have microphylls, which have only one strand of vascular tissue. So this is what I meant. They are microphyll. They don't have branch. They only have one strand of vascular tissue. So the microphylls bearing sporangia are sporophylls here. So here, these are the sporangia and these are the sporophyll. The shape here, the club shape is the sporophyll. So they are grouped into club-shaped strobili. Okay, they have the strobili up here. This one you can identify them in if I'm not sure, in the Lycopodium. I think in your lab samples in the lab 7 for part B. Is either you will find it in the Lycopodium or the Selaginella, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so you have to label the strobili, okay, for the samples. So next, the sporophyte generation is dominant, and some lycophytes have spores that grow into one type of gamete, which is the homosporous, or others 2 types of spores called the heterospore. They have the microspores, which becomes the male gamete, and the megaspores, which becomes the female gametophyte. So today's lycophytes are called club mosses. Okay, their new names are known as club mosses. So these are examples of some of the club mosses, which is ground pine, Lycopodium. We have the spike mosses, which is the Selaginella, and we have the quillworts. Okay, so this is the Lycopodium, and this is the Selaginella. Okay, you will notice the strobili. I think this picture is not that close up, but if you get a close up of it, you can see the strobili. And then we have the quillworts. Okay, so next we are done with the Bryophyte, we are done with the Lycophyte. So next we go on into the Pteridophyte. So the difference between the Lycophyte and the Pteridophytes are the Lycophyte don't have megaphylls, they have microphylls, while these Pteridophytes have megaphylls. Okay, they have more than one branch or vein. Okay, so next, okay, so this is the evolutionary history again. So we come up here, which is the megaphyll, and then it is seedless. So we have the Pteridophytes, which are also known as the fern and fern ellis. Okay, so Pteridophytes are seedless vascular plants. They include ferns, and they include also fern ellis known as the horsetails and the whisk fern. They have megaphylls, which are broad leaves. Okay, so this is down here are example of microphyll and also megaphyll. So in microphyll, it is just a single strand of vascular tissue, while this one here, megaphyll, which is Pteridophytes, they have branch. They have a lot. Okay, branch of vascular tissue or veins. Okay, so the megaphyll evolution process, if you see here, they are branch system here. Okay, and then they will see they will branch out, and then lastly they will produce the megaphyll leaf. Okay, so this allows plant to efficiently collect solar energy, allowing the production of more food and possibly more offspring. Okay, so this results in the increased fitness for the plant, which is the Pteridophyte, as they have megaphylls. Okay, so an example of the Pteridophytes, the first one we have the horsetail, or we have the Equisetum. So this genus consists of 25 species. It usually inhabit wet and marshy environment, very moist environment. They mostly have rhizomes, okay, and that produces tall aerial stem. So this is just one tall stem, and they contain walls of slender green branches. Okay, so these are the branches. What does it mean by whole? So the whole of this meaning it is in a circle, right? The whole. Okay, so then also they have the strobilus. So this is an example of the horsetail. So the next example we have is the whisk fern. Okay, this whisk fern can exist as epiphyte. Epiphyte are plants that live on or on trees, that live in or on trees. Okay, there are two genera in the whisk fern, which is the Xylotome and also the Mesipteris. Okay, so for the Xylotome species, which is down here, see here, they lack leaves. Their horizontal rhizome give rise to an aerial stem also that's fork repeatedly, and the sporangia are on the short sided of the branch. So this the sporangium. So if you see here, the yellow one here, all at the short stand of the branch, okay, all have sporangia or sporangium. Okay, so the next species is the Mesipteris. So Mesipteris species have appendages resembling reduced megaphyll. Okay, so the megaphyll. So lastly, we have the ferns. Okay, the ferns have approximately about 11,000 species. Okay, so they are usually can be found in the warm, moist tropical regions, and they range in size from about 1 centimeter in diameter up to about 20 meters in height. So they have large megaphylls. Okay, they have conspicuous which is another word for visible. Okay, they are large, visible megaphylls. They are called frond. Okay, so these are fronds. Okay, the whole of this is called a frond. So this is like one frond. Okay, so they are divided. The fronds are divided into leaflet, and on the fronds, which you can see here, on the underside, on the lower, underneath it, on the underside of the frond, we have the sorry. Okay, sorry is the plural form. I think the singular form is called a sorus. So a plural form is sorry. So you have a lot of sorry here. So they are the dominant sporophyte, produces wind-blown spores. So in the fern life cycle, the wind-blown spores germinate into gametophyte, which produces the sperm. Okay, and then the sperm swim from antheridium to archegonium, where fertilization occurs as well. So this also must take place in a moist environment. So when the gametophyte disappears, the sporophyte is independent. Okay, so we'll go through the life cycle. So the first one we have here are the sporophyte. So the sporophyte portion of the life cycle is the dominant in fern. Okay, so sporophyte is diploid. Okay, so the blue part here are diploids, and this brown part here are haploid. Okay, so here is the sorus, the one underneath, what you can find underneath behind the frond. Okay, so this is the part of the frond, which is the leaflet. So what we have down here is the sorus. Okay, so in this fern, the sporangia are located within the sorus, okay, on the underside of the leaflet and protected by the indusium. Okay, then they will go through meiosis. So within a sporangium, meiosis occurs and spores are produced. When a sporangium opens, the spores are released, usually by the wind blown. Okay, and then we have the germinating spore. They will go through mitosis, and then the gametophyte, which is a spore, germinates into a prothallus. Okay, this is very important for the fern life cycle. Okay, a spore germinates into a prothallus, which is the gametophyte, which typically bears the archegonia at the notch and the antheridia at the tip between the rhizoid. Okay, so we have the antheridium and the archegonia. So the antheridium is the male gametophyte and the archegonium is the female gametophyte. So and then the fertilization takes place. So fertilization takes place when moisture is present, because the flagellated sperm must swim in a film of water from the antheridia to the egg within the archegonia. So they have to swim, so they need the aid of water. So they must be in a moist or in a watery environment for fertilization to take place. And then when the fertilization happens, it becomes the zygote. The sporophyte zygote begins its development inside the archegonium. So as the distinctive first leaf appears above the prothallus, and as the root develops below it, the sporophyte then becomes visible. So and then it will develop into the root-bearing rhizome, from which the aerial fronds project. Okay, so they become the sporophyte. So this life cycle is very important for your exam. You must remember it. At least maybe probably not every step, but the main events that happens in the life cycle. Okay, next we have the economical and the medicinal values of the ferns. So usually ferns can be quite edible, so they are used as a food source. So this example here are the fiddlehead ferns. Okay, usually in the mainland China, they will eat this during winter to keep themselves warm. Okay, next we have the Azolahabus, nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria, and it's grown in rice paddy where it fertilizes rice plant. So if you see here in this is rice plant. If you see the green one underneath, okay, these are all Azolla, okay, which is Azolla fern. They help to facilitate the nitrogen fixing with the cyanobacteria. So the rice are grown more faster. Okay, so ferns and their allies are used as also medicines in China, usually as a cough medicine. Okay, extract from ferns or have also been used to kill insect. Okay, they are made into pesticide or fungicide. Can be both also. I think pesticide. Sorry. So ferns are also used as decoration. Okay, so you can hang it in your garden, which looks very nice. And then, sorry, I missed out on the medicine part. So it can be antimicrobial, it can be antioxidant, it can also act as anti-inflammatory, anti-HIV, anti-proliferative. Okay, so these are the economical and medicinal values of the ferns. Okay, you have to remember this also for your exam. So that is all for pteridophyte. So what we've covered today is the bryophyte, the lycophyte, and also the pteridophytes. Okay, so that is all for today's lecture. Thank you very much for watching.